Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Get ready for some good, solid rock and roll on today's show. My guest today hails from Los Angeles. The band is comprised of members from Southern California and Lima, Peru. The band is called the Dead Groove Band. And from the band is bassist and lead singer Holly West. Holly, welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am really very happy to have you on the show. Now, if you remember back to episode 70, we had Clementine Moss from Zepparella. Now, Zepparella, of course, Clementine was the drummer. This lady was the bassist, or is the bassist for Zepparella, and she's the front lady for the Dead Groove Band. They're straight ahead rock and roll. You're going to like the music on this show. First off, Holly, when did you pick up the bass, and when did you fall in love with rock music?
For me personally, I picked up the bass in 2011. I was trying to play guitar for many, many years. It just something didn't stick. And somebody asked me if I wanted to be in a band, and they would kind of teach me how to play bass. So I said yes, and now I'm here.
You know what, that floors me. Clem said she had picked it up when she was 27, and I'm going,
me too.
For you and for her to pick it up later in life rather than, doing it when you're 12. And to play it as well as you do, because you have to emulate John Paul Jones. That is not an easy feat, and she has to do John Bonham. You two must be very, very blessed because of your talent later in life. It is just well done. Well done.
Thank you.
What bassist besides John Paul Jones influences your playing style?
John Entwistle, of course. He's really great. Mm-hmm. I like that the whole the era that was influenced by stand-up, not necessarily stand-up, but influenced by stand-up. So all the 60s, 70s bassists. Robert Trujillo is awesome. I like his stage presence, and he's really fun on stage.
Yeah, he was a nice compliment to the band. Really nice compliment to Metallica. Yeah.
He's not like my favorite bassist because I don't like emulate his style or anything, but he's a great bassist and he's a great performer. And Dan Maines from Clutch, I really like bass lines.
All right. I was reading that this all came together during the lockdown of 2020. It's nice to see someone was productive during the pandemic. Most of us were sitting on our butt watching Netflix. But the band, the Dead Groove Band, formed during that time frame. Can you take us through how the three of you came together to form the Dead Groove Band?
Sure. So Fred and I, we met each other right before the pandemic. And he asked me to come on a date to his house where he had a shed built, that had a drum set in it. Mm-hmm. And so we just did a big jam session for like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And it was great. So eventually we moved in together, and then we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do musically. And none of the bars were open. Nothing was open to like do anything, you know? And so we were just stuck at the house like everybody else. And he was talking to his friend Caesar, who lives in Peru. And they were in a band together called Mauser a long time ago. Okay. And Caesar was actually about to give up playing guitar. He was done. He just had enough. And we said, well, let's try this. Let's try this little 3-piece and see how it goes. And we did our first song, which was Maverick. And then we were passing more ideas back and forth, and we ended up doing the Book of the Dead. So we had 2 demos, and we really liked them. So we ended up flying down to Peru as soon as we could, and we recorded those 2 songs. We put them out and got a lot of good feedback, so we decided to continue.
Matter of fact, we're going to feature those songs a little later in the show, but I wanted to get the most recent one, Bad Friend. Let's talk about the story on Bad Friend. This is what's the backstory on Bad Friend?
It's actually kind of funny. I don't have a specific person in mind when I wrote this. Basically, Caesar and Fred were in charge of the music and arrangements. It's just kind of easier to work like with the drummer for the arrangements. You know, you
Right.
can get the guitars or the bass down or whatever, but the drummer kind of makes the decision when it comes to the real arrangements. And so once they had all of that down, they gave me the demo, and I just started listening to it, and I had this this phrase come over like constantly in my head, something about bad something, bad something. And so I started writing some lyrics to it. And what prompted me to finish it was actually a friendship that Clementine was going through. We won't get into that or anything, but she had been telling me about an old friend of hers who was trying to get back in touch with her. And she's like, I don't want to get in touch with her because she's just a bad friend. I'm like, exactly. So I wrote this song based off of, you know, relationships that you have, friendships you have that you just, they're so toxic you can't go back to them.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about, too. It's a good thing it wasn't about a bad meal out or something like that called Bad Fish. So it's been a differently so. So this is from their self-titled debut album that came out earlier this year. Here is Dead Groove Band featuring Holly West. This is Bad Friend on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
Nothing but a bad friend. Bad
That's Bad Friend from the Dead Groove Band. Joining me from the band is bassist and lead vocalist Holly West. By the way, you can find the video to that song down in the show notes. And before we continue, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast. We remind you that we can be found on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find the recent news, our archive of past episodes. And if you are enjoying it, we invite you to leave a review. Give us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. We do appreciate that. It kind of helps us along the way. Now, we're very blessed to be heard all around the world. Thank you so very much. I want to give a salute to Bessemer, Alabama, Tarzana, California, and Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. Thanks so much for listening. As we get back to our interview with Holly West of the Dead Groove Band. Now, once again, let's talk about the roles of each member of the band. Now, Fred does drums, right? The drummer, Caesar is the guitarist. Let's talk about them and the roles, and especially in the writing process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're both from Lima, Peru.
Oh, they're both from Lima, Peru.
They're both from Peru. Oh, is that a kitty cat?
Yeah, that's we've got a couple of cats here, and
show cat. All right,
Angel. That's Angel. This is called CatGotYourTongueStudios here, and that's literal. I think they need some food here, so you keep talking, and I'll go and feed them.
Okay. So Fred and Caesar are both from Peru, and they had a band there called Mauser. Fred moved here after coming here several times for lessons with Glenn Sobel. He finally just ended up moving here in 2016 and really just tried hard to make it in the scene. And he's done a really good job, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so Caesar has been in Peru this whole time, and he's been doing his band Mauser. He's also been doing an Alice in Chains tribute.
Serious. Wonderful. I love Alice in Chains.
Tribute. Yeah. So his background, both of their backgrounds are very much into that like grungy,
the Seattle scene from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. And Fred was also in a Pantera tribute down there.
Oh, jeez.
He was in a System of a Down tribute here. So we've all been very, Fred and I have definitely been, or actually all of us have been very involved in the tribute scenes. But basically they're very skilled musicians and very well-trained musicians. They have a lot more experience than I do, to be honest. Caesar, he is a vocal coach that's what he does for a living. And he does vocal training on The Voice Peru.
Oh, you're kidding. That's wonderful.
Yeah, like so some really big
how cool is that? Well,
competition shows down in Peru. He's one of the main vocal coaches there. And I think one of his ladies that he just coached just won the whole competition.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's so fabulous.
He was very involved in the vocal booth with me. He killed me, but I'm still kicking, I guess.
Very good. Now, with the band being half in Peru or a third in Peru, and you being out in Los Angeles, there's going to be some struggles to practice and perform. I'm guessing jet lag would be the big one. What is that? An 8-hour flight?
It's usually we have like 2 flights, and they're about 8 to 9 hours.
Oh my goodness gracious.
It is. It has been a struggle. We're still struggling with it. We are going through, the proper immigration process to get him here, and that all involves a lot of different things. When you're dealing with the government and you're trying to deal with getting someone over here properly, it just takes a long time and takes a lot of money. So lately what we've been doing to kind of still play is we've enlisted Jeff Young from Megadeth Early Years. He's been playing guitar for us for a couple of the shows. Wonderful. And I think he'll continue to play with us unless something happens and we have to get someone else. But until Caesar gets here, it's not the same as having our guy. There's always something different. But Jeff's awesome, and he's been really, really great about stuff.
Especially if you write the music, you've got the emotion of it too. I mean, if you're trying to emulate something like that, you don't necessarily have the emotion that was actually put together when you're actually trying to put the track together. Speaking of tracks, another track we're going to feature from their debut album is called Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead. Tell us about this one.
The Book of the Dead is based off of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. When we wrote the song, or when I was writing the lyrics, I, when you're in a relationship with your drummer, it's hard to write about love songs.
Yeah.
So I'm very particular about what I write about because I want him to also be happy. So we go back and forth about lyrics and stuff. But I usually take his ideas and then just kind of be creative with them. And so when we were listening to the track, I was a little lost. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do on top of it. I knew I wanted it to be pretty grand and epic, but I wasn't 100% sure the direction. So I asked Fred, and he immediately said, well, write about the Book of the Dead, because we were kind of into a lot of that at the time, watching different documentaries and stuff. And I just took it as a real challenge and a real creative writing challenge. And I went on Wikipedia because I already knew about it, but I wanted to make sure I got some of the facts right. So I went on Wikipedia and just kind of wrote some stuff down, went to a couple websites and just checked, and then wrote out the lyrics. And so, yeah, it's about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I kind of think it's a lot of BS, just because I don't know how you would have to spend your whole life saving money to send one person to the afterlife. It's kind of silly to me. So anyways, it is about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but it's also about me just kind of thinking that it's dumb.
The truth comes out. You find it right here on the show, folks. All right, we're going to feature that song right now from their debut album, Dead Groove Band, featuring Holly West. This is The Book of the Dead. of the Dead from the Dead Groove Band. By the way, congratulations on signing to Rock Avenue Records. Nice going. It's nice to have support, isn't it? Rather than having to do it all on your own, right?
Yeah, it is nice to have support. And as a newer band, and we haven't really played a lot of shows, for them to pick us up and believe in us is a really, really great thing.
Awesome.
It definitely pushed us to get the record done and just try our best.
Awesome. Being a part of Zepparella is one thing. Being a part of the Dead Groove Band is another thing. So you've had your share of load-ins and load-outs. And this next feature is called Tales from the Road. This is those infamous road stories of where things didn't go quite as planned. Now, if we talk about all the gigs that went perfect, that'd be kind of a little boring. Now, Zepparella bandmate Clem told me about a gig that you had recently in San Luis Obispo where the van broke down on the coast highway and a cop came by asking if a guy was about to jump into traffic, if you'd seen him or anything like that. That was one story. Now, how about a different story from you on Tales from the Road? What do you think?
The one that pops out, and it's a crazy, crazy story. This isn't my first band.
Okay.
I lived in Dallas at the time. We were from Dallas. We were doing our first big tour. It was my first tour ever. And our last day we were in Colorado, and we're driving down the road, and I was about to ask to, find a place to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like within the thought, in like a minute, all of a sudden my singer lets out this horrible scream, and she's having a stroke.
Oh dear Lord.
It's crazy, right?
Oh,
and
my.
so we pull over, and I still have to go to the bathroom. I was also the one that was supposed to call the police.
Oh no.
So I'm on the phone with the police, and we're in the middle of Colorado. There's nothing there. There's just these big branchy looking bushes, tumbleweeds. So I had to go around to the tumbleweed to go to the bathroom and talk on the phone to call the police at the same time. And I'm trying to figure out what they're saying. They're yelling things at me, and I'm trying to yell things at them that the police are saying. I finally, get done with my thing and go over there, and I'm talking to them. And anyways, they ask if we could take her to the hospital, which is really close. So we take her to the hospital. We're waiting there. We're all just waiting, just a band in the waiting room,
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, they're like, you can go back and see her. And so we went back there. We're like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm like, okay. And we were like, well, we're going to go ahead and call the show and cancel for tonight. She goes, no, I'm not canceling. I'm like, are you serious? And like, you just had a stroke. And she said, no, I'm good. I'm going to be fine. Then the nurse said, if I can have a cigarette, if I can walk across the street and light it up, and I'm going to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we don't think that's a good idea. She's like, no, I'm going to do it. So she gets up out of the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and walks across the street, lights up a cigarette, says, let's go to the show. So we go to the show, and she plays her best performance.
Wow. The show must go on, folks. That's just
it. It was insane.
Talk about tenacity there. Hope she's okay.
Well, she's actually deceased.
Oh, dear Lord.
So it was kind of a downer.
Oh, well, wow.
She had a lot of issues.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, she at that point she was fine for a long time.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But,
that's a different one. That's definitely a different one. Okay. Thanks for your tales from the road there, Holly. Do appreciate that. Now, we do a lot to promote our projects. What would you say is the most unusual place you've ever played or performed to try to drum up ticket sales or whatever?
Being in Zepparella, they've been on the road for, almost 20 years now. And they've played a lot of places that I've never played. And every now and then we get like a place that is true to their heart, that they really love because they love the owner or whatever. And so every now and then we'll get a place, I'll walk in, I'm like, what are we doing here? But sometimes also the booking agent doesn't really know the venue. They just end up getting the spot, and the venue's going to pay us.
Yeah.
So we were doing a tour, and it was like we were starting in Texas and going all the way up the East Coast.
Okay.
And we got to Louisiana, and we got to this little bar, and it was really cool because the people who were at the place before came all the way to help us load in and stuff, and it was really nice of them. We had a lovely time with them. But we walk into this bar, and the stage is, I don't know, 4x4 or something.
It's barely big enough to get a drum kit on there. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, we were really scrunched up. There is a meme I've seen of these guys looking at this stage like this, like 4 dudes just looking like very confused. Like, okay, this is the stage. And it reminds me of that every time I see it. Every time I see that meme, it reminds me of that tour where we walked in, we're like, what? But we did really well that night, and the place was packed, so you can't really complain too much.
And most importantly, the check cleared, right?
There you go. If you pay us, we will play.
Absolutely. Now, as far as links go, you guys have really done a wonderful job. You have a link tree that gives links to the website, the videos, the socials, also merch. Those are going to be included in the show notes. What's that?
We have our own clothing line.
That is,
that's how we started. The name Dead Groove was Fred's a graphic designer. He's actually back there working on stuff right now, and he had a lot of designs that he wanted to get out, and also since it was a pandemic, he was drawing a lot. So we started this Dead Groove as a clothing company, and then eventually it turned into the band.
Wonderful. I really like that. That's all in the show notes. And well done, Fred, on the designs and everything. Props to Fred back there. All right. How about gigs on the horizon for the rest of July and the rest of summer? What do you got on tap for both bands?
We have confirmed the New Mexico Guitar Show in November.
Okay.
November 25th. We have... It's called the Blues Bar. I just couldn't remember what it's called. The Blues Bar, Blooze. And that is in Phoenix, Arizona.
All right.
On September 7th.
All right.
And we're going to be taking the Pantera tribute Far Beyond Hostile and the Soundgarden tribute Black Days with us.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're trying, since we're a new band, we're trying to see if we can get some tributes to play with us to kind of have a inbuilt crowd, and we'll see how that goes. So.
I am a huge fan of tribute bands because I can't plunk down $300 to see a band anymore. But I can.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And the thing is, the tribute bands work so damn hard, because they want to be note for note. They want to be perfect. I came across a Chicago tribute band that's from Russia called Leonid and Friends, and it sounds just as if you were a fly on the wall recording it in that studio back in 1972. And we've got a lot of great bands in the Chicago area here. We have a great AC/DC tribute band called Bonfire. We have a real good Tom Petty tribute band. And these sound literally, I mean, they don't have to go ahead and dress up and look like the band, but close your eyes, you're there. It's plain and simple. And that's just it. And
we don't look like Zeppelin. But there's nothing like the essence of live music.
Absolutely. And you support local music, gang. That's just it as far as I highly recommend. That's what this whole show is about. It's, yes, we can get Stevie Nicks on, but everyone's heard of Stevie Nicks. I'd rather get on Holly West and Zepparella and promote their craft, and that's what this show is all about. And I really and truly want to salute you for doing what you do, and especially trying to pick up Led Zeppelin for one thing. That's hard enough. But then again, you got Soundgarden, and you've also got Pantera. Oh dear God, there's so much good music there.
Great,
yeah. And also, so what we're going to do is in the show notes, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to your band dates as far as for the Dead Groove band, and I'll also put Zepparella's. That way you can find Holly West. And and
I usually update them all on my personal website too.
Awesome, very good. Any thoughts that we've missed so far before we close up the show and play one more song?
No, I mean, if you like the music, follow us. Maybe we'll be playing in your town soon. We're actively looking for shows right now, so we're trying to book for the rest of the year.
Awesome.
Hopefully we'll get Caesar here soon, and that'll be really nice, because he's what Caesar and Fred do. We do a lot of vocal harmonizing together.
Right.
So it kind of puts that magic back in there. So
awesome. Very good.
we'll get out there.
Final track we're going to feature was the very first song that you guys wrote together, the song called Maverick. What's the story behind Maverick?
So Maverick, I wrote as an acoustic song when I first moved here. It was when I first moved to California from Texas, and I was basically breaking up with Texas, breaking up with my life there. As you know, I grew up there, and I had, as you grow older, you have a lot of bad things that you leave in your past, and so I was kind of leaving my past behind and looking forward to the future. And so Maverick is just a kind of a tribute to forward movement. And so when I submitted that one to Caesar as just an acoustic, just me on acoustic singing, and so he came up with the whole the riffs and stuff, and then Fred and him came up with the arrangement, and then we went back and redid the lyrics and melodies to fit the arrangements.
Awesome, very good. We're going to close the show with Maverick. And Holly, thank you so very much for taking the time to be on with us and be part of our growing family here at Someone You Should Know.
Thank you.
You're a son of a gun, I'm a son of a bitch. Can't stay too long, I don't need shit. You can't understand my ways, that's just for you. I've got to find my way, no rest for you. As sad as it goes too long. Never know where, that's where I'm from. You can catch me now, I've been gone far too long. I've got to find my way before I'm gone. You can catch me now, time to rebel. You can catch me now, for you. You can catch me now, time to rebel. Come back another day, I'm through with you. I'll get to the bottom, I'll run through hell, just to pour me a whiskey and fight the devil. I'm on my way, with souls for sale. You can catch me now, time to rebel. You can catch me now, time to rebel. I see you panting, your eyes see red. You couldn't take me, that's what I said. You can catch me now, time to rebel. You can catch
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.